Hi wrestling fans, thanks for clicking on the Dreaded D Rose report. I'm late, I'm tardy today. Sorry about that. Hey, PWI Insider says John Cena is going to be appearing on the Today Show tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Yeah, I think the Today Show might be on Saturday. Could have been this morning. Sorry about that if it is. Mattel's going to be releasing a special edition of Undertaker action figures from his ministry days. Remember with that great big shoulder pads and all that? At the San Diego Comic Con this summer. And it's confirmed that WWE developmental diva and backstage ECW interviewer Courtney Taylor has been released from WWE. And I kind of liked her. She was cute. What do I know? Rey Mysterio and John Morrison has been among the WWE stars who are banged up from the European tour. Mysterio needed help leaving the arena after SmackDown tapings last night and his dark match main event with CM Punk. Dixie Carter announced on her Twitter today that Motor City Machine Guns and Brian Kendricks versus Brian Kendricks and Homicide has been added to this Sunday's Lockdown pay-per-view, and here's the final card. Let me know if you're going to get the pay-per-view or not. I'd like to know how many people actually buy them things. I got a little information later on WWE. But anyway, TNA World Title Cage match. We've got the Pope versus AJ Styles. Lethal Weapon Lockdown. Team Flair versus Team Hogan. Sting, Desmond Wolfe, Robert Roode, James Storms, Flair, Abyss, Jeff Jarrett, Rob Van Dam, Jeff Hardy, Hogan. Now I can bet you, if thus to be interference, and they may punch a couple of, throw a couple of punches at each other, but I got a feeling Flair and Hogan's not going to be in the ring any more than a second. TNA's X Division, I may be wrong, let me know, Monday. TNA's X Division title match is Shannon Moore versus Kaz versus Doug Williams. TNA Knockouts and Knockout Tag title cage match. Beautiful People versus Angelina Love and Tara. Cage match, Mr. Anderson versus Angle. Cage match, Kevin Nash versus Eric Young. Cage match, Scott Hall, Sean Waltman versus Team 3D, which would probably, you think there's something wrong that they're in slow motion, but they won't be. Cage match, Brian Kendricks and Homicide versus Motor City Machine Guns. Cage match, Rob Van Dam versus James Storms. Winner gets the advantage for their team in Lethal Lockdown. WWE has announced that USA will be present the May 17th episode of Monday Night Raw commercial free. They did that one other time, I think. Raw that night will take place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the Air Canada Centre. Jim Ross, Eric Bischoff has responded to fans asking what they thought about Jim Cornette's wild threats to Vince Russo earlier in the week. I didn't report on that because it just seemed kind of goofy, but I'll let you know what it is. I got, the sun is coming in. If I look kind of sunburned or tan, normally I look like Sheamus. Alright, here's what went on. Ross quoted on JR'sBarbecue.com, JC has an intense temper at times. He says, I wish he would not express himself in the form that he did, but I don't believe for a second that Jim was seriously considering murdering anyone. And this ill-conceived idea is overblown to a large part. Meanwhile, Eric Bischoff, who called Cornette a low-rent con. I love high school stuff, don't you? Anyway, earlier in the week, answered a few more questions about Cornette's comment on his Facebook page. Bischoff wrote, Jim needs psychological help. Said, I know it must be rough getting up there in the morning and looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing that you look like a 220-pound sausage stuffed in a 12-ounce polyester bag. But Jim needs to move on. Television business has passed him by with many, many Big Macs ago. Anyway, Bischoff continues, threatening to kill someone, posting confidential corporate information, and posting terroristic threats doesn't make you a genius any more than criticizing the efforts and success of others that realize that you must have nothing to offer. Jim is washed up and has been IWC icon to about 5% of the people that make up the television audience. Anyway, the following SmackDown matches are confirmed for tonight's episode of SmackDown, which was taped earlier in the UK. Drew McIntyre versus Kane, Dolph Ziggler versus R-Truth, Michelle McCool versus Mickie James, Hart Dynasty, and Rey Mysterio taking on the Straight Edge Society, JTG versus one of the Dude Busters, just one of them. Jack Swagger versus Chris Jericho versus Edge in a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship. John Cena versus Sheamus versus Randy Orton will be advertised for the WWE's return to Greensboro, North Carolina, Saturday, June 13th, when they come back to the States. Matt Hardy, you have to hold on sometime. I have too good a time doing this sometimes. I have to watch myself. Anyway, Matt Hardy wrote on the following Twitter regarding his injury from the European Tour. He says, "Thanks for the well wishes on my arm injury, and all are appreciated. My bicep and shoulder muscles are deeply bruised and strained, but not torn. I haven't missed any of my matches or appearances, nor will I on this tour. I'm working in pain, but attempted to work as smart as possible without risking anything else." Apparently, WWE don't have a celebrity guest host, by the way, for the April 26th edition of Raw, which features the 2010 draft. Please make a note of it. WWE wanted to have the show focus on the draft, I guess, and won't be much time for advertising this other jerk, whoever be the guest host that day, so they said hell with it. This will be the first episode on Raw not to have a guest host since the angle began in June of last year. WWE is likely to continue working with movie studios, though, throughout the summer to land more guest hosts looking to promote their movies of the summer. Wouldn't it be funny if that day the ratings just went through the roof? They wouldn't get the hint. PW Torch newsletter said Pro Wrestling Revolution out of California announced yesterday that they are going to be working with WWE talent scouts and mainly looking for luchadors. Former WWE developmental talent Kafu is head trainer at PWR's school. There's speculation that Hall of Famer Steve Austin may return as guest host for Raw the second time this summer. Austin's featured in a new movie, The Expendables, with several big names of Hollywood. Sources say that they wouldn't be surprised if WWE capitalized on the promotion of the film and brought Austin back for another round, because he did some decent ratings for him that week. It's said that Eric Bischoff's stock with some of the TNA talent went up after he worked a TNA live event last weekend. TNA's, by the way, Slammiversary 2010 pay-per-view will take place at the Impact Zone, Orlando, on June 13th. Please make a note of that. TNA's not going to be doing a live event Impact on Monday, the 30th, which is Memorial Day. That Monday show will be taped Wednesday, the 19th. TNA is still taping another episode of Impact on Tuesday, the 1st. Impact will tape 3 weeks in a row. You don't have to make a note of that. Despite having a stuntman working with James Storm and Jeff Jarrett to prepare for their Fireball angle at last week's Impact taping, Hardy still suffered minor burns to his face when Storm threw the fire at him. And actually took Storm 3 times to get the fire blown at Hardy. And during the failed attempts, the substance Storm had in the bottle got on Hardy's face, so Storm actually blew the fire for the 3rd time. It ignited the liquid on Hardy's face, causing him to be burned. Don't you love taping things where you can reshoot things over and over? WWE is expected to announce the buy rate for WWE's WrestleMania 26 on May 6th. That's what I was telling you. I'll tell you about when as soon as I find out. Better get out of here. We got a couple of other paragraphs, but I'll save it for tomorrow. Hey, thanks for clicking. Hope you got my bulletin the other day I sent out. I gotta go.